Well, welcome to Emerald Hill Skies. We are so glad you're here. We are experiencing just a bit of technical difficulties, but that could be good because maybe you can help us solve it, and maybe part of amateur astronomy is troubleshooting the difficulties. So if you're on board tonight and you can help us solve some of these gremlins that we sometimes have in amateur astronomy, I'm hoping that you will do so. Let me make sure I can see what you're seeing here. I see here. Here we go. Let me check that audio, make sure that's coming through okay. Yes, we're looking good on audio. Looks like we've got Mike here from Georgia, and Pete, you're on from the Isle of Wight over in UK. And I know that you are also an avid amateur astronomer as well. So welcome, everybody. Let me tell you exactly what's happening. We do have the scope set up, and it's pointing there toward the North Star, Polaris. You can see the sky cam here. We've got a beautifully clear night. It's just exceptionally crystal clear. We do have the scope set up. Let me find that for you. Here we go. And this is Polaris right here on the screen. So on the surface, it looks like everything should be good, right? But the one thing we don't have, if you're accustomed to being with us on the live stream, you know that normally up here in the upper right we have the mount, and so far we've not been successful in connecting to the mount. And the funny thing is, we haven't changed anything, so there's not been a single cable that's been plugged and unplugged. So whatever it is, it's something that is that has developed. And so I'm really happy that JM has gotten on and contributed a $6.50 super chat gift, preemptive inflation adjusted coffee, he says. Thanks, JM. That's an amazing gift, and we're going to apply that tonight toward the people of Ukraine. We're going to get that to the people of Ukraine that are suffering in a much colder way than any of us are. But yeah, it is going to be cold. I understand one of you said, JM, it's chilly in the Ozarks, chilly, Chris, in Minnesota. JM, you were a senior IT engineer, 20 plus years in prior life, so hopefully you can help us solve this problem. So let's get into this. Let's try to solve this. Let me show you what's happening. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the task manager. I'm going to make sure that the mount is not kind of in the background. Okay, so it's not. Okay, so we're going to close that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to try to load the mount. So we're gonna okay, so there's the little what would you call it, like applet that normally brings up the telescope mount. And I think we all understand what the mount is. In this picture, the mount is the part with the weights that are angled off to the right there. And that silver bar goes up and attaches to the mount. So it is the thing that the telescope rests on. Without it, we're pretty much dead in the water in terms of moving the scope. So the problem is this applet normally would come up and auto-detect the COM port that the mount is on. You can see we have a number of COM ports here. Dane, it's good to have you on. I think you're from up in South Dakota or someplace up there, so I bet it's cold up there tonight. So first of all, I don't remember which COM port that the mount is usually on. It's one of these, but the fact that it did not auto-detect it is a bad sign. It means it's not detecting it. So if I click OK, this applet disappears and the mount doesn't load. So now I'm looking down here at the little device that brings in our communications ports and the data from the observatory. And the green lights are all on, showing me that there's a steady connection from all of our COM ports. So we've got good connectivity coming in from the observatory. So what could this be? Let's think. I've tried to rack my brain. Why can we not speak to the mount tonight? So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking I might go out to the observatory and I might unplug the mount and plug it back in and just see if that should somehow wake it up. So let's close this little applet. And notice that the telescope is already seeing perfectly. Look at our beautiful image there of the North Star. Now when I go out there and look at the mount in a second, you're going to be able to see me in this picture, which is over here. Thought we were using a Mac prior. No, always been on Windows. I've never had a Mac, JM. Simon, are you certain the on-off button on the mount hasn't been accidentally pressed off? Yes, I just turned it on when I came to the observatory. I fired everything up. I don't leave it on all the time, so I turn on the mount, so I'm sure it's on. But let's do that. Let's power cycle the mount and unplug the cable from it and plug it back in, both at the mount side and also at the little device that transfers the signal from the mount over the fiber optics. So I'm going to disappear for a minute. You might hear me a little bit in the microphone, but I don't think the microphone reaches out to the observatory. But you'll see me in a minute there. So let's see, what can I'll go here to this picture, and I'll say, stand by and watch for Doug in the scope cam view live. How about that? That way, if somebody comes on, JM, uh-oh, got a loading on the video. Could it be on my end? Yeah, I think that is on yours, the buffering. Dane, any cables got loose? That's what we'll check. We'll go out there. So the next thing you see me, you'll see me kind of operating on the mount. It's about a 200-foot walk out there, so I'll go out the building and I'll be right back. And hopefully you can hear a little bit about that music. So I'm going to be back, and hopefully this will solve it. We'll see. Okay, so I'm going to grab my my little headlamp and put on my coat. I'm going to head outside the building. I think this audio will drop. You know, I always make it a habit to take my phone with me, though, because I've always thought, what if I get locked out outside or something and I had to call somebody? So I'm going to grab my phone. Okay, so I'm headed outside. I'm going to turn off the mount and turn it back on again. We're going to see if that solves this problem. Drop. Probably. But here. The machine because the scope cam and the sky cam, we even know that the primary camera is coming through, so the fiber optic relay is working perfectly. We know that much. But why the mount is not connecting? That's what baffles me. What could that be? Why would the mount not be connecting? Okay, we're back here. Are we back on audio again? Yes, we're back on audio. Ah, the Skycam dropped, didn't it? Let's see, I must have unplugged that. So let's go back here and reconnect the Skycam. That's 2.5 second exposures and a 400 ISO. And then we go back here and find the Skycam again. Well, the Skycam is not wanting to connect. So maybe we'll remove that and re-add it. Window capture, Skycam. There it goes. And it's a little bit the wrong size now, isn't it? Okay. Okay, so that's back. Now what about the this? Let's grab our primary camera again, just so that's all put back correctly. Whoops, that's the, uh-oh. There we go. Yeah. So that's back. So the communications is working well from the see. There we go. Okay. So everything's back. Now let's try the mount again. Let me see what you guys have been talking about over here. Jim, uh-oh, got a low. Dane, any cables got loose, Jim? Yes, you're back. Dress warm. I can sing and dance for the room while you're away, James says. Pete says, go for it. Dane says, hope he doesn't think we can hear him. Jim, if not back in 5 minutes, we can send the rescue team. Must be a wireless. It's a wireless Bluetooth made by DJI. Yeah. Yes, it did drop, I bet you're saying, JM. Dane, what type of mount is it? It's exactly, an iOptron CEM70G. Close out sharp cut first. That would have been a good idea. Then I wouldn't have had to redo all these. End all its processors, relaunch and re-add the mount if needed. Looks great from your Dane. Do you have a different USB 2 line you can use forums or saying disconnect usually? Or, yeah, but boy, usually that's when you've moved the USB 2. In this case, that USB 2 is static there in the observatory. So let's assume that the USB 2 line has not failed us. But boy, I guess that's something we could try, I guess, isn't it? You hate to do that on live TV. Okay, let's call up our little applet again. No, it shouldn't be there because we didn't run it. We just looked at it and then didn't run it. So here we go. It still didn't detect it automatically. Let me make sure you guys are seeing the screen. Yeah, so here's our little applet, and it still did not detect it automatically. So I'm pretty sure if we try to activate this, it will not detect it. Boy, there is a USB program out there, and I forget what it's called. It's something like USB or comport something. What is that called? What is that program called? It's some kind of a comport. Let's see. Man, why did I write that down? You know, I got this all working and I just haven't worried about it. Let's see. David, hi from the rain in New Brunswick, Canada. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. JM, with the recent weather fluctuations, none of this surprises me. Comport. There's some kind of a program that helps you, that tells you all the comports on your computer. JM, you might know this. It sort of studies all your comports. It's not Device Manager, but it's kind of like that sort of thing. It's a utility. Boy, I don't have it in my apps. Wonder if I would have it. Let me minimize everything here and look at my desktop and see if I might still have it on my desktop. Let's see. Controller editor. If you're joining us late, we're having trouble tonight seeing the mount, so we're kind of trying to solve this together. Boy, it looks like that I've removed it. Does it not give a drop-down menu to manually select the... Yes, other than this, I'd be going into engineer mode and looking up sysconfig :P. You had this issue a few months ago. I think it was a Bluetooth port or something. It was added by mistake from memory. Yes, as a matter of fact, Simon, you have a tremendous memory. I looked that up and I tried that. Let's see. That was in Device Manager. And what's the shortcut key to get to Device Manager? Is it Windows R? No, that's Run. But maybe I could run it from there, right? Windows R, Device Manager. Is that? No, I can't find that. So let's go to the search and let's put in the word Device Manager. Device, there it is. Are you guys able to see this? Yeah. Okay, so see what I did before I started the live stream. I didn't do this one. Let's try uninstalling these. Standard serial over Bluetooth, uninstall, yes. And let's uninstall this one. But I had turned them off before the live stream started. And I thought, well, if I just disable them, then that should work. Now let's get everything back. So we're going to get our primary camera back. There's our little applet. We're going to close that. We're going to get the Skycam back. We're going to get Stellarium back. We're going to get Deep Sky Planner back. Okay, everything's put back now. And let's try that applet again and see if this Bluetooth comport thing, Windows key X, that's it. All right, so here we go. We're going to open up the Commander. Well, still didn't detect it. So another thing we could do is just try to manually select these. For those of you who joined us late, we're having trouble seeing them out. Do a scan from the button in the menu bar, else it may not recognize it at all. I don't understand that, JM. So what we could do is we could try some of these COM ports. Tell you what, I made some notes, but I don't think I made notes about, let's see. Oh, with only the mount plugged in and nothing else, go and look under the COM and simply disconnect the mount. The device list will refresh, you should see it missing. The one that's missing is the mount. Add everything slowly. Mount first, see if it works, then attach everything else. Boy, that's a lot of trouble, isn't it? It's very challenging to relay via text-based medium. Yeah. Do a scan from the button in the menu bar, else it may not recognize it at all. Scan to install new devices. Yeah, definitely the mount controller is a non-native app. It's a third-party thing by iOptron. But it's been working just like a charm. So that makes me think there's something wrong with the COM port. So I'm about ready to try. Let's see, who was it that Lisa says, I can't help because I'm technically incompetent. Lisa, you're nice. Dane suggested a different USB 2 line. Let's go try that. Let's disconnect the USB 2 line and try reconnecting it with a new USB 2 cable. Let's do that. We know that the fiber optic data is connecting well, or else we wouldn't be seeing this in front of us. You know, this is actually USB 3, so this is a much more demanding USB. But we also have the USB 2 coming from the SkyCam. That's USB 2. So I'm telling you, the fiber optic relay is working great. There's just something about the mount. So I'm with you, Dane. Let's try a new cable on the mount. Maybe uninstall all Bluetooth devices and see what happens from the device manager. Except, Simon, we aren't using Bluetooth to connect to the mount at all. But you're saying uninstall Bluetooth anyway. Unplug, replug, reboot, and all things being unchanged, it should work. Unplug, replug, reboot. Yeah, that's what we just did out at the mount. So we'll get a new cable. I apologize. I'm going to have to go out one more time. So the audio will drop again. Let me see what you guys are seeing here and see if you're seeing still the little title deal that says, yeah, watch for Doug in the scope cam view. I know, but you had this issue last time and that was the problem. The Bluetooth. But see, I've just gone to Device Manager, Simon, and I've removed the Bluetooth COM ports. Look, I'm going to go to ports, and I don't know if you can see this or not because it's very tiny print. But I removed the Bluetooth COM ports from the list, so they're not there anymore. So I don't think that would be it. Bluetooth was the mic referenced earlier. Right. Yes, man, is hardwired via USB 2, correct. Scan for hardware changes. Okay, Simon says. Okay, let me try this cable issue that Dane suggested, and I'll be right back. So again, I apologize. This is not the live stream we hope to do tonight, but it does represent a bit of amateur astronomy, which is a bit kind of like this. It's like the old question, what could possibly go wrong? Well, that's amateur astronomy for you. So I'm going to go out and change that. I think I have a spare, if I remember right, I hope. I think I have a spare USB cable and a storage box out there. And if I do, I'm going to try to connect it to the mount and disconnect the old one and see if that cable is misbehaving. So once again, I'm going to go outside and the Bluetooth wireless mic will drop. Walk out to the observatory and we're going to try using no fun at all. What could this be? The temperature is colder. That thing, one variable I have, there is a variable here, and that is the temperature. Now, so maybe it's the temperature, maybe the temperature caused a cable to malfunction, because that's one thing that is different. The temperature is a lot colder. could be it. The temperature. Boy, I hope this solves it. I hope this solves it. Okay, what do we got going on here? Duct tape. I like that. You left. I should have said before you left on your trek to the mount. If you have the hand control plugged in, just double check that the mount moves whilst you're down at the mountain. No, I haven't used the hand controller since the first night when I updated the firmware. Dane, unless moisture got in there, the temperature shouldn't be an issue. Rats. I was hoping that might be it. Okay. Oh, look. We still got the applet up, so let's close it. Okay. Drum roll. Man, I wish this would work. Lord, please help this to work. Nope, didn't auto-detect. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and try to start the mount now and just see what happens. Okay, it disappeared into nothingness. I think that means the mount is not working. Right. So that's sad, isn't it? I'm going to go back here to Task Manager and go down to iOptron, iOptron Commander, and we're going to right-click and end task on that. Now at this point, Ricky, we can't talk to our mount for some reason. We could go out in the cold and try to operate from out there. However, there's a problem in that I still don't really have Wi-Fi out there exactly correctly. I don't exactly have Wi-Fi. I have it in a weird way, but not exactly like you would want to have it. Let's think. Control-Alt-Delete. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Kimberly, good to have you. The port was uninstalled. No, or was that something unrelated? Now I'm confused. What we did was we uninstalled the Bluetooth COM ports because Simon is right. Several years back, several months back, when we uninstalled the Bluetooth COM ports, it solved this very issue. And it's worked flawlessly since that night. So tonight we uninstalled the Bluetooth COM ports again, and it didn't solve it. So now I'm perplexed as to what to try next. This is a brand new, I don't know if you can see, that's a brand new USB cable, never been used, brand new. So now we know that is an issue. Yeah, the port is uninstalled, but see, they were ports we weren't using. I'm going to try that Windows X. Nope, that just brought up the menu, but it did at least show us a menu from which we could get the device manager. Let's go back to COM to ports. Oh, look, they're back. Now that is odd, isn't it? Why did those Bluetooth COM port links come back, Simon? Okay, so I'm going to disable them again. And disable this one again. Okay, so now they're both disabled. Now let's bring up that applet again. Didn't auto-detect, but It didn't automatically start it either. Rats! Wait! Wait! It did! The mount is there! Woohoo! Okay, so the first thing we do is sync the time, and then we go to 0 position and we say set the current position as 0 position, and then we start tracking. Tracking is enabled, and okay, so what did we do? One thing we did was we used a new USB cable. So Dane, I think we have you to thank for that idea. Yeah, they came back after we put in the new USB cable. Correct, Dane? Pete, you're very kind. It was, Simon. It was the Bluetooth ports again. But the funny thing, Simon, is that we had not only disabled them, but we had uninstalled them. So somehow they resurrected from the dead. So I'm going to open the device manager up one more time and look at COM ports again, and they're still disabled. So let's leave them disabled like they are. Dane gently pats himself on the back. Yeah, you deserve it, Dane. I obviously, before the next live stream, I want to give you guys my word. I will try all this out again. I'll carefully, make sure everything's working. But I also want to tell you this. This has worked flawlessly. Night after night after night after night. Maybe 50 nights of observing, I don't know. Since that time we had trouble with this, and it only flared up now. The only thing I can think of that's different is the temperature. And maybe when the temperature got cold enough, it revealed that that USB cable had a flaw in it. That's all I can think of. There is one other thing. Every night, when we put the telescope away, we do lower that height adjustable pier, so the USB cable does slightly move with the movement of the pier. Okay, so we're going to assume that that was it. Oh my goodness, JM just gave a $5 super chat. And I think that's because, I don't know, JM, because you want to celebrate and say bravo. Thank you so much. Simon, there have been countless Windows updates. You're right, countless. I mean, Microsoft has pushed a Windows update to us, every Tuesday night of the year they've done that. So it could have been any of those Windows updates that somehow woke that back up. You're right. But why, when I disabled them tonight, didn't it work? And I had to replace the USB cable per Dane's suggestion. Now let me ask you guys for a vote. When we put this recording on YouTube, do you want to leave this roughly 42 minutes that we did this troubleshooting, or shall I hack this off the front so the people watching the recorded version won't even know we had this trouble? Which do you think? You guys vote. JM says USB 3 is more susceptible to interference and ingress as it operates at a higher frequency. Could also be an integrity issue with the cable. Okay, JM, I think you're right. It was a USB 3 cable. I was wrong. It's USB 2 data from the mount, but it's a USB 3 cable. Dane, there have been power outages galore. Insects bad in Kentucky? I don't think the insects are bad inside the observatory. Seems like this is a mechanical issue rather than a temperature. Okay, I'll take your word for it. So you guys vote. Back to the syllabus for the evening. Yes, because the excitement of you finally getting it working was worth it. Okay, we're going to leave this on the recording. And for you guys who are watching the recording, thank you so much for hanging with us during those 42 minutes. Now let's start as if we're really just starting again, okay? Let's figure out where we are. Okay, so let me change the title slide. And it's going to now say, Welcome to Emerald Hills Skies. And now we're back to the open webcam. Well, good evening and welcome to Little Skies. We are happy to have you here again. If you're just joining us, we've had a bit of a cable problem, but through the combined encouragement and troubleshooting of all of our folks that were on the stream here, we were able to solve this. So thank you, Dane, and everybody else that stuck with us. We are just thankful. Jeff says, cut it down to just 5 minutes. Okay, we might consider doing that. Just put a timestamp in YouTube comments for the people who want to skip. Okay, that we can do as well. All right, so we're back. We've got the scope cam running there, and that looks okay, right? You know, yeah, that doesn't need brightened up. You've got the sky cam going. You've got the screen going there. So let's get to work. Here we are in our Deep Sky Planner, which is the, as you recall, the app that we use to determine which objects in our The Secret Deep book by Stephen James O'Meara that we're going to be able to look at next. And this particular app, it's called Deep Sky Planner, and we have all of these objects already programmed in. We're going to click the Run command, which refreshes everything. And then we're going to go up here under the Best column, and we're going to figure out what might be best. Now, it's actually suggesting we start with a galaxy that's only 16 degrees above the horizon because it's saying this galaxy is about to be, actually it's 13 degrees above the horizon. This galaxy is about to be lost because it's sinking. So let's try it. Let's connect the telescope. Now that we have the telescope connected, let's go up and it did connect with the mount. Thank you, Lord. Now let's slew to that galaxy, which is NGC 4036. NGC 4036. And it's object number 49 in the list. Tonight, I'm just so happy. I have this little stand here tonight, which lets me bring up the book. And it holds the book for me here, so I won't be dropping the book again. This is a mixed lenticular spiral galaxy in Ursa Major. So we're going to enter the title slide, and we'll say that Secret Deep 49 or NGC 4036 is a mixed lenticular / spiral galaxy in Ursa Major. That's awesome. Let's go back to the screen now before I forget. Tonight, I'm hoping that I can avoid forgetting to put you guys back on the screen even once. I don't want to even do it one time, forgetting to do that. Let me see what you guys are saying here. Subscription to YouTube land is just a follow. Dean, okay, thank you. JM, or that too. Dean, well, this is great. Glad I found the stream. Good to have you here, Dean. Welcome. JM, thanks for all the thumbs up and yes, if you wouldn't mind doing what JM says, if you can click a thumbs up and if you can subscribe, that helps get the channel up in the heads-up display of everybody else. And all excitement, I nearly forgot my lunch. Simon, don't do that. Eat your lunch. Dane, I know you have connection with the stand, but I haven't seen it move to prove it works. All right, it did move. Troubleshooting is part of this hobby. You're right, Dean. Okay, so first we're going to connect a sharp cap to the mount. So it did connect, and we're going to do a plate solve because this is the first object that we've slewed to. So what we do with these plate solves is we help the scope find the part of the sky that it meant to look at. And sometimes, as you guys know, if you're new to the channel, maybe this is new to you, many people, when they're using a telescope, they'll do what's called a star align, and we don't do that here at Emerald Hill Skies. We just plate solve. Now, we were 1.53 degrees off, but that's because this is the first object we've slewed to. So the mount kind of guesses, to be honest, on the first object. The mount kind of guesses and gets us in the ballpark. Then we use plate solving technology and align everything. And I do see an object right there in the middle of our screen. So now what let's do is, let's see, let's just go ahead and start 20-second exposures. And let's drop our ISO to 100. And then let's put the title in here. It's NGC 4036. And then let's start live stacking. And the SharpCap is the application we're using here to do the live stacking. And what SharpCap does is basically stacks image after image after image on top of each other. And what that does is it enables the application to average the darkness. And by doing that, it stacks the light on top of each other, but the darkness it averages out. So let's do a color balance here, get our black level reassigned. And what we're doing here now with this little movement, we're saying to SharpCap, let this be the new black level. And then with our mids, we're going to bring them here, and we're going to say, make this the new level of mids. And right there in the middle of our object, in the middle of our screen, is this object. So let's go in already. I can see it's such a tiny object. Let's zoom into 100%. And perhaps you can barely see the object there in the middle of the screen. And it does look like it does in the picture in the book. It's kind of a, I would say it's like a spiral-looking blob with a brighter core. And as we continue to stack frames, the noise level, and by noise we mean all this granular looking, like sandy looking stuff in the picture, all that noise will fade out. So let me see what you guys are saying here. JM, all I have here is a glass of Merlot, Simon. Drink some carbs with me. Simon, JM, too early in the day for alcohol, matey. 10 a.m. here. That must be in New Zealand, I think, Simon. JM, slew, baby, slew. 8:49 p.m., JM says. Dean, 9:50 here. Simon says 12 hours in front. You guys are all talking about which kind of thing you'll choose. Stu, it's great to have you here, Stu. Stu, you missed all the action with us trying to get our mount connected. You'll have to go back and fast forward through the YouTube video to see all of our pain. JM, a wild spiral looking blob appears. Yes, exactly. Stu, been looking forward to this and YouTube didn't notify me. Man, that's so sad. Everybody's giving greetings. Now let's read a little bit about this. 4036 is a very condensed and obvious lenticular galaxy a little north of the midpoint between the second magnitude stars Alpha Ursa Majoris and Delta Ursa Majoris in the Big Dipper's bowl. And he says it's about 1 magnitude fainter than the famous lenticular galaxy NGC 5866, and Draco forms a non-interacting pair with the small 2 arc-minute 11th magnitude face-on spiral galaxy NGC 4041, just 15 minutes to the northeast. Oh, look, there is the galaxy that Stephen James O'Meara was just describing. So that is a face-on spiral here. Boy, that is tiny. Just 2 arc minutes. There are about 400,000 light years between these two objects. 400,000. And this blob, NGC 4036, is supposed to be 80 million light years away. Stu, see if that's what you get in your research. Vito, it's so good to have you here. Welcome. Pier-Tech Inc., nice to have you here. Vito, we had a little trouble connecting the mount tonight. You'll have to go through a little bit of the pain and fast forward through the first 42 minutes while we were trying to get the mount connected. Let's see. Stephen James O'Meara, we're at 4 minutes, so we're good. We usually do 7 minutes per object. NGC 4036 was first classified as a clean lenticular type. But after some time, there were some irregularities that caused them to think it's sort of a contrast between a lenticular and a spiral galaxy. The spiral being more like the Milky Way that has the spiral arms. But the dust lanes in this object are not as pure as the ones that we see in pure spiral galaxies. He gives some scientific stuff about LINER, low ionization nuclear emission lines, regions. So we won't go into great detail there, but the Hubble Space Telescope does reveal some wisps of dust in a disk-like configuration surrounding the nucleus of this object. So let me zoom in a little closer and use some of the digital zooming power we have. Still, it's just a lenticular looking blob for us with a brighter core. Let's go out to the web for just a second. Where did our web go? Right there we are. And let's say Hubble NGC 4036 and see if we can get, it's showing us Wikipedia. Yeah, here we go. So that's the Hubble view. And sure enough, there are some irregular dust lanes there in the middle, but you can see why we're not seeing those dust lanes. Those are very nondescript. It takes a satellite telescope to see that after who knows how many minutes of observation too. See what you guys are saying about this. Simon's in Perth. Dean, EHS is now in my favorites. Bless you, Dean. That's so nice. Birdman Cat Daddy. Good to have you here with us from California, Birdman. JM, yes, Dean, the only YouTube channel I watch live. My goodness. JM, that is such an honor. Kevin, see, I bet I know who you are. I love that you consistently post your observations. Maybe in my future retirement I'll be able to do the same. I'll have to invest in a decent telescope. Kevin, it's so great to have you here. You had a birthday a couple weeks ago, if I remember right. Okay, we'll come back to the live view, and now, oh, look, we're seeing something out in the periphery here. Very, very minor something. You know what it is? It's one of these. It's either this object or this object, perhaps. Or maybe it's that star. Look how we're seeing that star is barely showing up out in the periphery. How interesting that is, that with just a simple 11-inch telescope and some live stacking, that we were able to pick out that object before we went to the Hubble view and could see it here. That star is showing up. That's fun. Okay, so now we're going to go to our, let's get back this other galaxy here, which is 4041, NGC 4041. Let's go here and let's say add an observation, and I hadn't created yet our session for tonight. So let's create that real quick. On 1019, we're going to go through 1020, and we're going to put whatever the session is. I forget what it is. Session, you guys might remember better than I. Is it 89 or 91? I can't remember what session this is. But whatever it is, we're going to say this glowing blob, and let's zero in on it, zoom in on it a little bit better, lacked much definition for us. But after 6 minutes, we could make out a spot, I'll put it in quotation marks, in the glow surrounding the blob, which the Hubble view revealed as a star. Otherwise, not a lot of detail in this 2 arc minute wide object. Let's see if there's anything else here that Stephen James O'Meara says there has been a supernova in this galaxy. And he says, make sure you look at 4041 before you leave. He said it's really hard to see the spirals. Let's go look at that. Right here. And I would agree, man, we're getting no detail on that. Let's bump up our mids just to see if we can bring any other detail out. I would say no spiral arms, wouldn't you? I mean, it looks like to me no spiral arms at all, but we can see the glow around it, but I'm not seeing any spiral arms. That's 4041. Okay, I'm just going to say here we couldn't make out any detail in NGC 4041, just 400,000 light years to the side. See if you guys say anything else. Very fitting for the fall season. Estimated visual luminosity is 42 billion times the brightness of the sun. Wow. Stu pointed out that this object is 42 billion times brighter than the sun, but I guess the, what was it, 80 million? The 80 million light years, the 80 million light years have a tendency to fade that, I guess. Kevin, yes, you do know who I am. Thank you for knowing I had a birthday this past Monday. Wow, that's great. It's been a minute since I sat in your missions class at CBC. I think it's been longer than a minute, Kevin. Dean's wishing you a happy birthday, Kevin. Stu, on July 23rd, 2007, type LIA, is that what that is? Supernova SN 2007 GI was discovered near the central bulge. It reached a peak magnitude August 14th and steadily declined in brightness. Wow, that's great. Azray, hello from Arizona, Azray. We did not have any trouble at all getting started tonight, Azray. Any rumor you hear that it took us 42 minutes to connect to the mount, it's just a rumor. Stu, probably contains 42 billion suns, right? All right, let's drop back down then. And I guess the picture, oh, I haven't attached the darks yet. Let me go find those in our pre-processing. We've got the wrong darks. See that little stray pixel there? Let's do, what did we figure out last time? This one, this dark was the most recent, July 6th. This one is May 9th. Yes, and we'll attach this dark, and that way next time this troubled pixel will not show up in the frame. Lord willing. All right, let's just grab a screenshot of these since they're so tiny, and that would be control print screen, and we'll just go like that, and then we'll save this. Oh, I did get that silly troubled pixel, but that's okay. And we're going to call this NGC 4036 dash, oh, it's 13 minutes, 39 subframes, and it's on 2022-10-19. Okay, so we'll have that picture for posterity, and we've saved the observation. We also need to remember how low this object is on the horizon. That object was just at 13 degrees above the horizon, so it's very low, and I'm surprised we saw anything there at all. We exposed it for 20 seconds, Dean, 20 second subframes for a total integration time of 13 minutes. Azray, you were laughing at our, you are not going to see any trouble with this connecting them out at all. Okay, so we're going to run this sequence now called next target. That's going to adjust all of our exposures automatically. And then we're going to come over here and look at the next target, which is SD109. That would be the last SD, the last secret deep object. It's NGC 7790. We're going to let you guys watch the scope slew. And meanwhile, I'll go change the title. NGC, Secret Deep 109, NGC 7790. And let's turn back here to 109. This is so nice having this little music stand here. It's the Widow's Web cluster. It's NGC 7790. NGC 7790. Is it an open cluster then? Yes, an open cluster. An open cluster in Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia. Okay, back on the screen, let's right away. This is NGC, and it's asking us for the next object. This sequence is 7790. And this way, we never forget again to title the object, because now it's in our sequence. And the mount has settled. So now we can say, okay, there, it's going to do the plate solve. And let me see what you guys are saying here. Dane says, someone needs to donate so Doug can buy a backup USB cable. Dane, you're great. Stu, he should have gone for the wireless connection. You know, for 200 feet away, Stu, I didn't trust that our wireless would be dependable enough from the mount to the inside. So we ran it over fiber optic cable. This is the cable that connects the mount to the fiber optic cable hub. Azray, good to have you here. By the way, a couple of you asked, I'm not making this up, a couple of you asked, we're still, by the way, we were 0.54 degrees off. So we're now waiting for that to settle, and then we will start live stacking here. A couple of you asked, I'm not making this up, is there any Emerald Hill Skies merchandise? And I refused to even consider that until you guys asked for it. And I thought, okay, the fact that you're asking for it must mean that we're generating some kind of community here. And what you're really after is the community of Emerald Hill Skies. Now, under that guise, we did open up a Patreon site. And I think you can get to it just by going to patreon.com/Emerald Hill Skies. And right when we get here, I'll change my view to view as if I'm the public, and it'll show me what you see. Now, if you join for a $5 pitch-in amount per month, then it shows you what you get. We actually recognize you on the live stream, if you can believe how cool that is. But look, if you jump up to the $20 a month lives, the $20 a month Patreon, you get an exclusive Emerald Hill Skies sticker after 3 months. And after 6 months, you get an Emerald Hill Skies mug. After 3 months, you get an Emerald Hill Skies poster. After 3 more months. And at the end of a year, you get an Emerald Hill Skies t-shirt. Now, not to be outdone, that's the friend level. At the partner level, $35, you get the mug after 3 months. After 3 more months, you get an organic tote bag. Emerald Hill Skies organic tote bag. After 3 more months, you get a long sleeve Emerald Hill Skies shirt. And at the end of 3 more months, you get an exclusive Emerald Hill Skies hoodie. Then we've got this thing called The Sky Is Not the Limit Donor. This person gets emailed copies, private digital discovery downloads of deep space objects that you can download on your own. That's a joke. I mean, yes, you really get that. But what we say in the $50 level is, The Sky Is Not the Limit Donor receives partner level gifts. You get everything the partner gets, so the mug, the tote, the long sleeve shirt, and the hoodie. But you also get this benefit of knowing that you are like the patron that supported Shakespeare or Da Vinci. Because the patron knew that Shakespeare or Da Vinci, they were making a difference. And Sky Is Not the Limit donors are like that. So that's the $50. That to me is a joke. But at least now you know what you can do to get stickers and mugs and posters and t-shirts and organic tote bags and long sleeve shirts and exclusive hoodies. Now, let me tell you, the stuff you're seeing, nobody has them in the world right now because we just created them all today in graphic arts. I don't even have these things. They are literally brand new creations. So here you go. Oh my goodness, JM is contributing to the backup cable fund. That's awesome. So if you want to try this for fun, it's really just more for fun than anything else. But there you go. That's the Patreon site. It's just patreon.com, and then it's / Emerald Hill Skies. So there you go. Now, let's do our color balance now on this object. Color balance. And boy, this is a little bit different. You know, it's beautiful tonight because we don't have a moon. So we're really not going to have to live stack this, to be honest, because this object is already so incredibly bright. Look at that. I mean, that cluster is incredible, isn't it? This is an incredible part of the sky. Dean, you are so kind to join this community with us. Stu, Patreon is a great idea. How do you feel about shipping all over the world? Guess what? Those prices include global shipping. How about that? We did that on purpose because we knew, Stu, that you would ask this question. Dane says, what does a hoodie look like? I want it now. I don't want to wait 12 months. Laugh out loud. The hoodie looks cool in the graphic picture, but I don't have one. I don't have any of these things either. Dane says, made in China, but screen printed in Russia. Oh, I hope not, but I don't know any of that detail. Kim, you are so nice. I think, Kim, you might have been the one. Boy, look at this sky. Is this not incredible? Widow's Web cluster. NGC 7790 is a pretty little cluster in Cassiopeia. And don't let the seemingly dim magnitude fool you. And by the way, with live stacking, with, you know, the 11-inch scope we have, it's not dim, Stephen James O'Meara. He says that it's... there's some bright stars, but most of them are faint. And Trumpler called it isolated. Man, how could you call this isolated? He finds it aesthetically pleasing. He says it's rich enough, more than 24 suns at high power. Man, you guys, this cluster is on a star-rich part of the sky. I don't see how it could get any richer. He says it's an important star cluster because it contains 3, count them, classical Cepheid type variables. And that's a special interest because it's the first known binary system consisting of twin Cepheid variable stars. One of these has twin Cepheid variables. And they have slightly different periods, 5 days and 4 days and change. They're separated by 8 astronomical units. They appear to form a physical pair. And then he talks about Cepheid variables. We're at 5 minutes, so I'm not going to read everything here. It's an intermediate aged cluster, about the same age as NGC 2451. It lies in the galactic disk near the Perseus arm. It's 10,600 light years away, and it spans 15 light years of space in true physical extent. If we could see it at the same distance as the Pleiades, which is 25 times closer, it would shine at 5th magnitude and it would span 2 degrees of the sky, which is about the same as the Pleiades. But still it would be 2 magnitudes fainter. But he says it's a wonder. If you can find it and see it, it's a wonder. And I would agree. If you see it through nice binoculars or a good scope, it's very beautiful. 4 to 5 weak individual stars forming a Y shape. Anybody see the Y shape? Would it be... Oh, there's part of it. And then here's the other part of the Y. It's accompanied by a weak background made up of unsolved stars. I guess that's in binoculars because we're not having any trouble. Let's put our sky not quite as dark, because what I'm trying to do is help us pick up some of the nebulosity. And by that we mean, look at the cloudiness that we're seeing between these stars. Like, boy, that's just too much, isn't it? Too much mids. But look at the cloudiness around these, the faint nebulosity we're starting to see. And it's coming out now pretty grainy, but if we could hover here a little bit longer, we would see some good nebulosity. Stu, you kicked in for cables. Thank you. Very interested in the Patreon initiative. Good work, Emerald Hill Skies team. JM, you're very kind. Thank you for the cables. We will buy a new cable, and we will have that as a backup. Dean, great image. What is the name of the yellowish star? Ah, that's a good point. For that, let's go here, and let's say show chart. And then let us go to Stellarium. Let's go to Stellarium. There we are. Stellarium. And did we already show chart? I'm going to click on Stellarium here and zoom in. Sure enough, right there it is, the Widow's Web cluster. And you're wondering what's the yellow star. So it would be right here. It's, man, it's not even, it doesn't even seem in Stellarium, it doesn't even have a name. That's so sad, isn't it? How can this be that it doesn't have a name? Let's go over here to Stellarium's side and go to the information. Where is the information? Is it here? Yes. And let's make, yeah, the name is checked. This is a nameless star. How can this be? I guess, are we just at that level of detail here? Surely we're not. Boy, it is just, oh, here we go. So the Widow's, this one has a name. It's Hipparchus 118090. So it might be that star. It's probably that star right there. Hipparchus 118090. That's the answer, Dean. Dane, can you make a hoodie with your face on it? It says rats. Dane, you have the funniest comments. Let's go back to live view one last time and capture an image of this. I tell you what, that is so beautiful. Look at this entire field. I mean, what does that even look like? Somebody tell us how you would describe that. It's unimaginable. We're going to save this as scene. And then over here in the observation, we're going to say, your membership sky is not the limit donor. You did not do that, did you, Kevin? Surely somebody hasn't already done that. Add observation for this. 77. Wait. Cancel out of that. 109. Here we are. A beautiful, tight cluster. Kevin, you're amazing. Kevin did it. Kevin did the sky is not the limit donor. That's amazing, Kevin. Well, you're going to get it all. Whatever. The digital downloads, everything that was there, Kevin. Boy, thank you for doing that, Kevin. And all of this money, by the way, everything that's there goes to help these Ukrainian refugees who are out there tonight with 30% of their power cut off and bombs raining down on them trying to survive this winter. I'm telling you my word. I'm giving my word. And I'll also show you proof online. This is all going to be donated to them. So I'm not taking any of this. But I will tell you this. I will do the backup cable fund because you guys are designating it to that. But thank you so much on behalf of Emerald Hill Skies, Kevin and whoever else does that, for helping these Ukrainian refugees on behalf of the Emerald Hill Skies Network. A beautiful tight cluster situated in an ocean of jewels, bedazzling this image that we will never forget. It's just so, it's so amazing. And Stephen James O'Meara said this was, how far away, Stu? You always know these facts. 10,600 light years, and it's 15 light years across. 10,600 light years away. I've already forgotten. How many across? 15. 15 light years across. Well, that's fun. So coffee was always a lie. Yeah, to be honest, JM, I drink water, you know, and that's it. No coffee for me. All right, so we're going to run. Oh, wait, let's start our sequence up here. Did we already take a picture of this? We did. So next target. And now let's go back to our Deep Sky Planner. By the way, I actually talked to the lady who is the developer of Deep Sky Planner and pointed her to our last video. And believe it or not, she's actually watching it. The next thing we're going to is a diffuse nebula. So let's slew there. She was so nice. She looked at the things that we gave her input on, and she's at work on Deep Sky 9, version 9, Deep Sky Planner version 9, and she said, I will try my best to develop the things that you're suggesting into Deep Sky Planner version 9. And for instance, one of the things we suggested was, JM says, I jest. Thanks. One of the things we suggested was, could you develop an algorithm in your program that lets us filter for objects that are within a certain number of degrees of a moon. And last time, remember, we were observing it was like a 99% moon. And when we got within 20 degrees of the moon, everything was just awash with moonlight. She said, I already can figure out how we can do that. We already have that data. I just need to make it available to the observer. So she's going to develop that. She's going to take an idea that we came up here on Emerald Hill Skies and build it into Deep Sky Planner 9 so that we can filter for objects that are too close to the moon and we can assign the number of degrees. It'll be great. It'll be great. So this is NGC 1579. 1579. And we're going to trust that it's already settled. And so now it's doing the plate solve. I can already see a hint of a diffuse nebula there. JM says, hello, Deep Sky Lady. so her name is Phyllis. Phyllis, one of our viewers just said hello to you. I love this. Hello, Phyllis. So thanks for helping us run the entire scope tonight. And Stu says, love it when developers are open to constructive criticism. Some aren't. You're exactly right. That's why we bolted finally from Starry Night Pro, because they weren't listening to the glitches, let alone the future programs. At least there are no glitches in this program. I think we found one, didn't we? And I told her about it. A keystroke shortcut that didn't work after a while. So she'll work on that, I'm sure. But that's so minor. The Starry Night Pro people, they wouldn't even listen to the glitches. So you're absolutely right, Stu. Stu says this is the Northern Trifid Nebula. Dean says, do you have a pic of your observatory that you can share? Dean, you are so kind. I actually thought you'd never ask. This is the picture of the roll-off roof observatory. It's a Pier-Tech Tele-Station 2. And you see the roof rolled off there. We roll it off right before start time. And then we use that little pier that's in the middle. We actually raise it. A little bit closer view of that adjustable height pier. And the iOptron CEM70G that we did not have any trouble tonight for 42 minutes connecting to at all is sitting on top of that. And then on top of that is the RASA 11. It's an 11-inch Rowe Ackerman Schmidt astrograph. On top of that is a neat little outrigger that I really love. It holds our SkyCam view so we can stay connected to the sky and see when clouds are moving in or whatever. And it also holds two little accessory boxes. One is a power box. That's the one on top, a blue box. And then underneath that power box is another blue box that is for the USB connections. And it combines the different cameras and everything together and lets them come off the back of the scope. It kind of waterfalls off the back. And by the way, the mount is not in that connection. The mount actually comes off the back of the mount and goes directly to the rig rack that's at the bottom of the scope. And that's where the 110 comes in, which is the power supply on the left there. It connects to the 12-volt power supply and also the 12-volt distribution box. And that on top of that is the fiber optic relay hub there. And then there is a Wi-Fi hub on top of that that we'll be able to use someday when we do get Wi-Fi out to the observatory. We don't have it quite done yet, but we will. We use, by the way, a ZWO. It is a 2600MC Pro camera, and it's an astronomy-specific camera on top of a camera adapter made by Octopi-Astro, the interface that connects the camera to the scope, and it connects to the glass corrector plate that you can't really see very well on the front of the scope there. So I don't know, Dean, if you're like my plant, you asked to be able to see this, but thank you so much. Dane says, can you explain why the red LED lights are used? Yes, in this view of the telescope, if we didn't have those red LED lights, this view would be absolutely pitch black. So those red LED lights that you see here along the baseboard of the observatory are what allows you to see the telescope here. But those red LED lights are so dim, if you walked out there, they are so faint that they make no interference whatsoever with the telescope at all. They're like the headlamp you might have on a red astronomy headlamp. They don't interfere with the scope whatsoever. So that's why those red lamps are there, so you can see this telescope. And I can see it too. I can see where the scope is pointing and stay connected to the scope. Boy, these are great questions. Thank you, guys. And Stu says, yeah, it does preserve night vision. Kevin says, I don't need the extra save anything for Ukraine. You may recall I went with my brother and his first child on their first trip to Kherson. Oh my goodness, Kevin, so you have visited the place where we lived there. We lived in Kherson, as you recall, and that is amazing that you were there. I had forgotten that. So you're so nice. But Kevin, Patreon runs all that for us. In other words, Patreon ships the gear directly to you. We don't have anything to do with that. It ships directly to you. And Azray says, that's good, my next question. That's awesome. Well, back to our screen so we can see this view. We're at 4 minutes and we can already see this object. Our color balance is still really good. Let's come just right here at the top of this crest so we can darken that sky. And let's leave it right there because actually, it actually helped a little bit, didn't it? But let's move the mids up. Maybe we can brighten up this object a little bit. I actually liked the view back here. How about you guys? It showed more of the night sky, but it also showed more of the object. Let's come back and put this back a little bit more like it was. Yeah, that's actually a better view, isn't it? That's fascinating. Isn't that crazy? That with this object, we're getting a better view by revealing more of the light of the night sky. And I can't explain why, but this diffuse nebula is going to be pretty amazing when we zoom in on it. Now that is 100%. Now let's see what else we can do with this. Because the more traditional view of this would be to put our darks right there. And then to move these mids up, to there, but isn't that amazing? All of this is just art. There's no exactness to this skill. We're still just averaging out. What do you think this nebula should look like? This is about where we would normally observe. But at 6 minutes, it's still weird looking, isn't it? So let's bring these darks back to kind of where they were. Let's do another color balance just to make sure something isn't haywire. Ah, so it was. The color balance wasn't correct. And I wonder if part of that is just because of this hydrogen alpha region is throwing off our color, because it sure is haywire, isn't it? Let's bring our reds down some manually. What an amazing, what is the altitude? It's just 21 degrees. It could be that the altitude is picking up some of the Louisville sky dome here, the light pollution from Louisville. Or it could be that this object is somewhat faint. Let me see if you guys think. Red LEDs are easy on the eyes at night. Didn't change your name on the screen. Thank you so much, Stu. My goodness. That is so good that you told us about that. This is object 16. Object 16. And it's NGC 1579. And it is a diffuse nebula. And 16, a diffuse nebula, the northern Trifid in Perseus, in Perseus. Thank you so much for pointing that out, gang. Love that. Update the title and the image, yeah. It did update because it asked me that question in the sequence. Way too much red, Stu says. Yeah, let's back that red down. But how weird is this to try to color balance this? What in the world? Why is... I guess because this object is so red, it's flavoring its picture of the red. The more we dial out. Wonder why this object is so hard to dial in. You guys have any opinions? Yeah, it just disappears when you turn it down, right? There we're getting closer, aren't we? Let's read something about this briefly and just see what... It's a fainter, though marvelous, deep sky wonder. It's irregularly mottled, and it's a reflection nebula lying in a dark lane relatively near third magnitude Zeta Persei, and it is called the Northern Trifid. Its more expansive and dimmer outer regions are large and bulbous and mottled, marred by dark webs of dust. Direct photographs have a hard time with this. It's so faint, he says. It's an intriguing object. He says in some telescopes it won't even show up. He had to use a lot of time and averted vision, and then he could only see the core. He couldn't see any of the detail of the faint glow, so he had to look at it through astrophotography. It's through astrophotographers, and that's all he says. It's only 6 arc minutes, a dim sight, a smudge barely visible with averted vision. And it is 2,000 light years away. So I'm going to just put here in the observation on this, I'm going to say we had trouble dialing in the color balance on this object. It was either way too red or none at all. Weird. O'Meara observed only the core and said he couldn't see the outer glow except for in astrophotos. It's how far away did he say? Why do I forget that? 2,000 light years away. Just, did he say 6 arc minutes? That's not very wide. 2,000 light years away, 12 by 8 arc minutes. 2,000 light years away, 12 by 8 arc minutes. Okay, see what you guys are saying now. Too distracted showing off your rig. Dane. Oh yeah, update the title and the image. Way too much red and persist. But it just disappears. If you do zoom, you can better adjust the colors. Not if you have a Mount Lemmon-sized telescope. Amazing pictures, Stu says. All right, so let's color balance one more time. And then let's find the best place we possibly can. And man, it's just so faint, and it must be in some of the light pollution. But look how this little core shows up here. Isn't that wild? It's a little star. Diffuse reflection nebula, probably being lit up by that star. I'm going to go this is so interesting. I'm going to capture that, and I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to say show chart and just skip over quickly to stellarium. Look at that. That is beautiful. Oops, that is beautiful, isn't it? And that star must be, would it be this? IC2067, or is it this star inside of here? Yeah, it's that star. Look at those dark lanes. Let's go back here for a second and try to make this. Let's do this one more time. First, we do that, and then let's dial down the red a little bit, but not as much as we did last time. Let's put the red right about there. Then let's take this and actually dial it gently right there. And then let's dial down the mids. Okay, now we're getting closer, aren't we? Still somewhat mottled, but still very interesting, isn't it? If you don't already, you should have a How to Get Started in EAA series. You know, as a matter of fact, Kevin, I'm glad you asked. At emeraldhillskies.com, there is a resource that we're working on, and you'll see it in the top line menu. emeraldhillskies.com. It's, well, I'll just show you real quick. We won't stay long, but it is interesting that you asked that, because it makes it seem like it's worth it. Where is the web? Where did the web go? Here we go. emeraldhillskies.com. It's called EAA 101. And in EAA 101, we're assembling an entire knowledge base for people that are doing EAA. And you can read about every single part. Let's say you're interested in how to get started, you know, how to choose a mount. You can zoom in on that and read all about it here. Just zoom in on each topic, and you can search for things like, I want to know about the camera, and when you search, it'll show you all the different things. And what we did also in this EAA 101, we did profiles of different observers that are doing EAA, so you can see what they're using. I hope this will be of help to you, Kevin, and I'm going to have to pay you afterward for asking the question. It's all free and you don't have to register, so I jest. emeraldhillskies.com/EAA101. In fact, I wonder if I just did that domain, EAA101.com. Yeah, if you do EAA101.com, it goes directly to this subdomain at Emerald Hill Skies. So you can actually search for, you can go to EAA101.com on the web and it'll take you right here. Kevin, thank you so much for asking that. Kevin says EA 101, awesome. Typo. Okay, well, what do you say we call it here where we are? Let's go one more. I actually think that's getting closer to what we're seeing in Stellarium. Still a little bit too red, but getting much closer, right? Drop that and then bring this back up a little. There we go. Okay, save a scene. This is an interesting diffuse mint nebula. I'm going to have to remember this. 1579. Gorgeous. One more after 42 minutes of tech issues. Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. Okay, so we're going to go to next target, and let's filter again, and then let's choose, what do you guys want to do? You can do a galaxy, I guess, or an open cluster. We already did an open cluster. We did diffuse nebula. Let's do a planetary nebula. And that's at 36 degrees. Slew to it. As Ray said, that is better. That's so nice of you. So this is now object 91 on the SD list. It's NGC 6804. NGC 6804. Now this is where we have this next little prompt. And I'll show it to you here on the screen so you can see the telescope's almost done slewing anyway. On the prompt here you see it says, has the mount settled? If so, press OK to confirm. And you can see it had not settled yet. And see those little stripes? That's where the mount is still settling down. Now it looks like it is settled, so I'll click OK. Now it does the plate solve. So I love this little sequence, and I think, if I remember right, boy, please forgive me if I didn't, but I'll put it there after this. If I didn't, I'll put it there after this live stream. But I think I put in the live stream, in the description, the entire sequence that we're using. So if you are a SharpCap user, you can try it for your sake and see if it works for you. I am loving it. So it is telescope vanilla. In other words, you don't have to worry about the fact that we use it with a RASA. It'll work with whatever telescope and whatever camera you choose. And it's free. There in the description of this live stream, you can use that sequence and get a head start. It's taken me weeks and months to figure out what I like for it to do. This way it gets started for you right away. We were 0.69 degrees off, and now we fixed that. You notice when the live stack first starts, there's this quick little glimpse of the last live stream. That's because SharpCap has held that live stack in its RAM memory, and it stays there until we clear it. So the sequence automatically clears it out and starts live stacking again. Wow, so there you have the first image. Let's do a color balance again, and you can see that planetary nebula is right there in the middle. So we're going to bring our dark sky up to right about here maybe. We're at 36 degrees above the horizon. And once again, to see where the scope is, we're right there still in the north sky. Remember when we use this scope cam, if the scope cam looks right over the top of the telescope in a perfect angle, it is almost due north. So we're looking due north, and our light pollution, remember, our light pollution is all along the sky. So some of the problem we're having doing this color balance is because the lights of Louisville are there in the distance. But I do want to point out that we are using a light pollution filter, and it's a very expensive one. It's a $600 filter, and it takes out 6 different spikes of commonly used lighting. For instance, sodium lighting. It takes 6 different spikes out so that you are minimizing the impact of light pollution. It's the Celestron LP filter, the light pollution filter made especially for the RASA 11. But even with that light pollution filter, we're still going to pick up some. Now with our ASI 2600, we are already at peak, but this is a great little planetary nebula, and I'll tell you why. We're at our optical max, but let's go ahead and zoom in some digitally, because in this planetary nebula, we're going to be able to see the central star that's lighting up the planetary nebula. Let's change our title slide. And this is SD91. And it's NGC 6804. And it is a planetary nebula in Aquila, or Aquila, how do you say that? Aquila? Aquila or Aquila. I think if you've read the Bible, you're thinking of Aquila and Priscilla, but this could be Aquila for all I know. It is in Aquila, so no doubled letters there. Aquila, it's in Aquila. And look how you can see. I hope you get your eyes really close to the screen. Look how you can see that central star. And you remember what a planetary nebula is. Remember, it's for instance, a red giant that has used up most of its fuel, and it gets to the point that it's used up so much of its fuel that's kind of dying out. And in its last dying breath, it loses, because the gravity is less, it loses the outer layers of the star. And then it collapses down again, and it becomes a kind of white dwarf. And then the white dwarf does something magnificent in its dying breaths. And it might be there for a few thousand years as a white dwarf, maybe not, but as a white dwarf, it starts backlighting and illuminating and even, what would you call it, ionizing the material that it has cast off. And because it casts off that material in a kind of an ejection, almost like a fireworks explosion, that material is going out in a circle, like a sphere. And so now the white dwarf acts like this little LED light bulb inside of an ionized blanket of different gases. And they typically are hydrogen alpha and oxygen. And in this particular planetary nebula, I think we're seeing a little more oxygen than you might have imagined, and that's making it turn a little bit green. But I'll also be honest with you, the color balance can affect this, but I don't know if you can tell it. Right here under the central star, I think we're seeing a gathering of the red there. And if we had a little more time on this, we're just at 4 minutes. At just 4 minutes, we can already see a little bit of red there. And what this typically is that the white dwarf has polarity, like the Earth has poles, our North Pole and South Pole. And you know that the Earth's magnetic field is influenced by these poles, thus the compass works. These stars have polarity too. The Sun has a North Pole and a South Pole. This white dwarf has a North Pole and a South Pole. And as it lights up these ions, as it ionizes the oxygen, it actually begins collecting and ionizing these materials in a polarized field. And you begin to see something that looks like a drawing of a magnet with the iron shavings around it. And that's what we're seeing here. We're looking down into the sphere or the ejected material, and I can tell you this material we're seeing here is starting to ionize. So that's either the South Pole or the North Pole of that star, I bet. Isn't that all amazing? Dean says, a marathon would be great. Azray, Doug, our mutual friend Tiago, does really good videos on it. He does, you're right. He uses a Dobsonian at Keep It Simple, I think it's called. Stu says it's pronounced Aquile. Is that what you're saying, Stu? Aquile? Dean says, how often do you broadcast? We do every clear night we can in a frequency of about once or twice a week. So like these next couple or 3 nights, they're pretty clear, and I might come back out Friday night. I'll try not to do 2 nights in a row usually, but this is Wednesday night here in the United States. Wednesday night, 9 p.m. We'll come back out, I bet, Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Stu says, sorry, it is Aquila. So, I don't know. Well, whatever your opinion is. I am fascinated by this. We have our 7 minutes now. So, what I'm going to do, I think, is back off a little bit here, and I'm going to snap this with a screenshot, Control Print Screen, and I'm going to just bring in a couple of stars for context, and then just label this NGC 6804. And I'm going to put it in the same folder. I got to figure out why. It never remembers my place. I'm going to fix that. NGC 6804. 6804 at 7 minutes, 23 subframes on 2022, October 19th. And then in the observation, what do you guys want to say? Something like, this is a tiny planetary, but we could still see the central star, probably a white dwarf, ionizing the ejected material. We saw lots of green, but I know that can be changed based on the, this is 6804, I know that can be changed based on the color balance. Like, I don't know if I dialed up the red a little bit. Let's dial it up. Let's dial it up and see what happens. More green. Look at that outer halo we're picking up now. And what that tells us is the telescope was starting to see a hint of a halo. And look at the way, this almost looked like it went out in two waves. There was an outer wave and then a secondary wave explosion. And the inner wave, the inner halo, look how it's kind of white. And the outer one is more green. Let's see what Steve O'Meara says about this, 92. It's quite condensed. This one morphs into an annulus under high power. He says it's a curious planetary with fascinating structures. It's 22,000 light years from the galactic center, 6,100 light years from the sun, 480 light years from the galactic plane. It says this one might have 4 different shells. Now, we were seeing 2 shells already. After just a handful of minutes, he says it actually has 4 shells, maybe. A bright inner shell, and that's the one we were seeing that was white. A second shell, and that's probably the one we were seeing in the next layer. And then he says there are a couple of other shells that are asymmetric. Very interesting. So 4 different explosions of material that were going out probably at very high speed. And he loved it when he could finally pick out the central star, but he wasn't sure it was the central star. He couldn't see the traces of the nebula's outer shells in his, I think his is a 5-inch scope. Even when he looked through his friend's 12-inch reflector, he still couldn't see the outer shells. But the inner one was a brilliant ellipse. Looked like lips ready to be kissed. But he had no hints of fainter structures. He wonders what size scope is needed to reveal these intriguing outer shells. Well, we're definitely seeing the green one. A lot of fun. Okay. Well, it's 4 minutes till 11. It's up to you guys whether you want to try to do one more object. We are at our, almost at our end. Do you want to try one more? And if so, what one would you want to do? Sometimes at the end, we'll kind of just say what might be a fun object to go look at. Like Uranus, for instance. We could look at Uranus. We could look at Jupiter. They don't look great under a RASA because a RASA is a very rich field. Saturn doesn't look great under a RASA. But there are all these star clouds and nebulae. The great Hercules cluster we could see. The double cluster. Flaming Star Nebula. Whoop. What is that? Oh, Pleiades. We could see the Pleiades. There's really no limit, but what are some of those? The Soul Nebula. Dean says one more. You're very kind, Dean. The Soul Nebula. Kevin says one more. Bless you. JM says one more. Here's $2 for cables. Okay, so Azray suggested the Soul Nebula. So now, what if we're trying to do this? Because now we're off of our, we're off of our observing list. In other words, here in Deep Sky Planner, we have an observing list made up of the secret deep objects. So this is not going to help us now, Phyllis. We got to go now to here in Stellarium, and what we do is, I just do Control F. Some people use F3, but Control F brings up this box, and we can just put in Soul Nebula. Right there it is. And then we look and see where it is. We kind of zoom in a little bit. Now, because we're going to click on it and select it, I think. Yeah, there we are. Now we're going to say, Now let me think. We got to connect the telescope here, don't we? We haven't connected the scope yet. Rats. To connect the scope, we go over here to the configuration window and go to the plugins and say telescope control, load at startup. And then, I know this is weird. It is super weird. You actually close Stellarium and open it back up again in order to connect the scope. And when it opens back up again, it connects the scope because you selected in that plugin, connect that plugin. But I wonder if I didn't save it, if it really did connect. Let's make this bigger here for a second. And let's go Control F again, Sol Nebula. And then it's selected. Now I think if we hit Control Control 0 is it, I think. It will summon the telescope. Nope, that didn't work. Well, maybe it did because that's in approximately the right part of the sky. But we would see the scope named. Let's go look and make sure that maybe it's talking to the scope right now. See that little hourglass? Wait, sorry, you don't. There's a little hourglass there. So it might be talking to the scope. Or maybe it just crashed. Stellarium. You know, Stellarium is a free planetarium software, but I actually like it better than Starry Night Pro. This is not showing it off here, is it? I'm going to say, wait for another second and see if it responds. But I hit Control 0, and maybe that's throwing for a looper. It's trying to find a telescope that it doesn't have. That's the problem. So it did not link well to the scope. So let's close it. Open up Stellarium. So you can go to stellarium.org, I think it is, and you can download this in any device you have. It doesn't matter. Windows, Mac, Linux. There are all kinds of versions there. And I honestly have come to the conclusion it's better for me than Starry Night Pro software, which was like $150 plus. By the time I bought the Starry Night Pro Plus, it was actually, Stellarium is actually working better for me. Yeah, that did load the scope. So it should be loaded. So let's look at the ocular window. Do you guys remember how to get the ocular window up? Maybe here, oculars, configure, and then telescope. It's the only scope, so it should be control. So how about the control to slew? Is it control 1? Is that it instead of control 0? Let's try control 1. Now are we slewing? No. Okay, you guys who are Stellarium experts, help me out here. First, configure the scope in Stellarium. It is configured. Oh, Stellarium. It is configured, but it shows, even though it's configured. Okay, it is connected. That's a good sign. We know it's connected. So this is good. Now, ASCOM. Yeah. So we should be able to Control F, Sol Nebula, and with it selected, we should be able to say Control 0. Connected. Maybe it's control 1, control 0. Look, I like this little applet. Slew. This is so much better. So I got to look up the keystroke command to get this little applet up, because that's what we needed. Why is it not slewing? Do you think it's already aimed at it and it just didn't have to travel very far? I guess that's a possibility, isn't it? But, oh, look, there it's coming. See the RASA coming across the sky. So it says it's slewing to it. Do you think it really is? Doesn't look like it's moving, does it? We're going to find out in a second. It's going the wrong way. Why is it going there? Okay, I'm wondering, why is it? Okay, I'll tell you what let's do. Let's close this. And let's go back to Deep Sky Planner and do this an easier way. Let's save that list and let's open up another observing list. And I usually use something like observe next. And then I just add the object we want to go find. And so let's edit the plan and add the object. And we want to look up Soul Nebula. Look up. And let's try finding it. IC1848. Okay, it found it. Now we add it. And IC1848. We're going to slew to it with, oh look, it's not traveling in, oh, it is showing it as traveling. Look at that. It's showing the RASA traveling to the Soul Nebula. And right there it is. Okay, so we got there one way or the other, by hook or by crook. Okay, thanks, Azrae. Or thanks, Pete. I'll have to experiment with this. Okay, so there, we should be on it now. So let's go back to our live view. We're still live stacking, so let's just stop this. And let's go back to 3 seconds at first. Actually, we might as well just start live stacking and clear the stack, because we're going to have to live stack in to see the Soul Nebula. Let's go back to the auto. Looks like Azrae has it. Ricky, does anyone else have the urge to make sound effects when the mount is slewing, or is that just me? What I love about the Soul Nebula is when you first go there, it really doesn't look like much of anything at all if we're on it. Now maybe we were off a little bit. We didn't do a let's stop live stacking long enough to do a plate solve. And that's just because we can. And let's wait till that first 3-second exposure shows up. Okay, now let's plate solve. So I'm going to make you guys a deal. I'm going to practice on race car noises. I do it too, Stu says. I'm going to make you guys a deal. I'm going to practice moving around in Stellarium a little more. I had not done that before, but I had watched it on videos, read about it, we were off about 0.88 degrees, so it's probably not in this frame. So, yeah, Azray likes Nina. Yeah, I don't blame you. For astrophotography, nothing beats it, Azray. It's just not really quite perfect for EAA, I don't think. Electronically assisted astronomy. All right, so now we're here and we're almost settled. Let's go to 20 seconds and a gain of 100 and start live. Oh, let's change this to IC1848 and start live stacking. Well, thank you guys for your patience during that. That's obviously a growing edge. IC1848, the Sol Nebula in Cassiopeia. Okay, so let's do a color balance, and that's not that far off. We're at 40 seconds so far, and at 40 seconds it's just not showing up much, is it? And then it just starts, little by little, it starts appearing. Yeah, Azra, I'll just experiment with that. I think I've got the general, you know, the general gist of it. I think now I just need to practice. And I did, over the weekend, I changed Stellarium around so that I could use keystrokes. And then I didn't remember the keystrokes for you guys, so sorry about that. All right, so now you can start to see the Sol Nebula start to sneak in a little bit. Just a little bit over here, starting to show up. But this is the way the Sol Nebula does. It's just like so dim at first that when I first see it, I think, you know what? This is going to be nothing. That'd be awesome, Azray. How many minutes do you have on it so far, Azray? How many minutes have you been on the Sol Nebula? It takes a while. We're at 7. Oh, look. For some reason, I wonder why. I restarted that because we must have started. There we go. We must have started it before the mount was finished moving. So now you can see it's starting to shape up in there. But at first it's very, very faint. Like I say, every time I come to the Sol Nebula, which has only been 4 times in my life probably, I don't know. Let's see, it should show us observations, shouldn't it? Observations. Yeah, there's only one observation, but I think I've looked at it probably a total of 4 times. When I first see it, I think, oh my goodness, this is going to be trash. It's not going to show up. 39 minutes, Azray says. So yeah, for 39 minutes, you can see a lot of the Sol Nebula, but boy, for EAA, if you're just doing 7 minutes, it takes a while to make it show up. Now this is 60 seconds, and you can already say, okay, I'm starting to see some nebulosity down here. There's a little bit of redness. Starting to see some nebulosity here. We're beginning to see some nebulosity here, and there's some nebulosity here. So when I say nebulosity, I just mean cloudiness. And some of this cloudiness is obviously hydrogen alpha being backlit. So we're basically seeing hydrogen alpha gas floating in open space, and it's being lit up in the night. But ASRAY's got 39 minutes. Dean says, we will wait. You're very kind. Yes, it takes a while to see, ASRAY says, yeah. So there are 6 frames, so now we have 2 minutes. And at 2 minutes, it's still very faint. But I'm actually surprised because I don't remember seeing this much of it. And look up here. There's a little bit of a bluish tinge to this nebulosity now. Again, in EAA, this is what we're doing. We're observing. It's not to make a pretty picture. It's more to observe. So look how right now we're seeing a lobe out here and a lobe here. Now you might wonder, where did the name come from? Well, it's actually, if we go back over to Stellarium, it's because the Heart Nebula is right next to it. This is the Heart Nebula, and it does resemble a heart. But this, how do you draw a picture of a soul, you know? But when you put the two together, they just thought, well, they're so close together, let's call it heart and soul. So that's where the name came from. And it is so big. Let's try to remember the keystroke for seeing your field of view. I'm so sorry, I don't remember these keystrokes. But let's see, where is that keystroke menu? Is it under... Oh, I remember where it is. It's under Help. This is where I needed to go a while ago. And then up here under Search the Action, you can say Field of View. I don't guess there's a shortcut established for it. Could that be possible? Surely there is. Let's say Oculars. Wow. Huh. So maybe there's not a keystroke for show me the field of view. There's bound to be. Boy, I thought I had these memorized. Would it be under Windows? No. Miscellaneous? No. Sits on floor with a rapt expression. Tell us a story, Doug, while we wait. Okay. I'll tell you what, let's go back and see what it's looking like. That's funny. All right, so now there's too much blue compared to what we're getting. So let's back the blue down just a click or two. And raise the mids up a little bit. So if we darken the night sky too much, we lose. But this has been my experience with the Soul Nebula. It just shows up little by little. Now see there, you're seeing more of it, aren't you? When we bring this general dark black level over to the left, we're actually seeing more of it. Isn't it amazing? It's like the Vulcan, whatever, what did we say, Raptor? What is that thing that shows up off your port side? Now you're starting to see the Soul Nebula, aren't you? The Heart Nebula. You just did that, Azrae, and it just fits. So this is a good place. That's 6 minutes. You know that we normally do 7-minute observations. Now move the kids to the right. The mids. Yeah, I think you're right, Azrae. I think that's going to show the reds and also this bluish, whatever color that is. So we haven't hit 6 minutes yet, and now we're seeing quite a bit of the Solar Nebula. So here's what we're going to do, Kevin. Because you were kind enough to invest in the Patreon highest level, the level that was called Sky is Not the Limit level, I'm going to do this after we close the live stream and give you access to this picture exclusively for the Sky is Not the Limit person. We're going to go ahead and do a quick observation here, and we're going to say, it always surprises me how little we can see of the Solar Nebula when we first start observing. But tonight it also surprised me how much of the Solar Nebula we could see after just 7 minutes. Beautiful expanse of H alpha filling the entire frame, almost. Parts were bluish red. Nebulosity everywhere. The link to the Patreon, JM, thank you. It's Patreon. You know what? I'll just put it in this. I'll put in this title on screen since you were kind enough to ask. Title on screen. It's patreon.com/Emerald Hill Skies. That's the link. And if you're kind enough to pitch in there, bless you. And 2 families of Ukrainian refugees who will have hope for food and getting through this winter will also bless you. And we deliver that directly. It doesn't go through some big agency and you wonder how much actually gets to the field. I actually asked the guy to go there for us, and he agreed to go. He had been working in Kosovo, and he went there directly. We will give the money directly to him, and he will be able to use it directly for these 2 families, and probably many families that will get benefit from it. So thank you on behalf of those families, and also thank you for the encouragement it is to the channel. And to all of you who have been here tonight, even through the 42-minute startup, which had nothing to do with the mount, thank you so much. We do electronically assisted astronomy. If you're interested in this kind of content, please do subscribe to the channel. Click thumbs up if you like it, because that does get the channel up into other people's radar. You can also go to emeraldhillskies.com and subscribe to an email list there. And we email that list usually 24 to 48 hours before observing, as soon as we can tell that a sky is going to be, clear enough to do that. And more than anything else, thank you for all the times you stick with us through the hard times. 42-minute startup tonight. We're a learner, not a guide. We're an explorer, not a guide. And you guys are great to team up with us. Dean, you're very kind to say this was a nice image. We'll keep playing with it, and before we're done, we'll get to 39 minutes like Azrae, and then I think it'll be a nicer image. But as of right now, we'll still play with it. We'll still play with it. There is probably, you're right, that's beginning to be a decent a decent representation of the Sol Nebula. Just decent, but that's just 11 minutes. So we'll let it run, and boy, thank you again. God bless. We're going to go ahead and close out. Thank you, Pete, for being here. My goodness, you stayed up from like 3 in the morning until 5. You are a trooper, Pete, because you were observing with us from a little island off the coast of England called the Isle of Wight. Everybody look that up, W-I-G-H-T. Thank you, Pete, for being with us. Stu, thank you. Dean, thanks for the encouragement. Thanks to everybody who pitched in. JM, you pitched in dearly for that new backup USB cable. God bless you guys, and good night.